Hi everyone, welcome back. So we're going to do a tulip today, a nice simple easy tulip. This is the one we're going to do. So this is all going to be taken through step by step, and I'm going to use three colours. I've got Gamboge Yellow, Permanent Rose or Rose Madder and Cobalt Blue. So it's going to show you how you can work the paint to create a really nice atmospheric tulip by letting the paint do its own thing. This is just geared for absolute beginners, this floral playlist. And I'm working through, we've done primroses, we've done snowdrops, this is tulips, and we're going to continue to do different flowers. So do please look up the playlist as well, and on with the tutorial. Okay, so we're going to do a nice simple single tulip today. So I've got a HB pencil, and I'm going to start by drawing the first petal. I like to show you everything, so you're going to get to see the drawing. Then I'm going to do a little petal this side, following that curve around, and then a little petal this side, following that curve around. So you've got a really nice simple tulip shape. Then you want a stem on this and keep it nice and straight, a good size proportion to it, and then we're going to pop in a leaf here and a leaf here. So we're going to keep it nice and simple. Colours wise, I've got the same 4 colours. I'm using the same palettes. We're on day 3 of this now. It's the 3rd tutorial. I've got Gamboge Yellow, I've got Rose Madder, I've got Burnt Sienna, and I've got Cobalt Blue. So I want about half a teaspoon of water into 3 wells. I'm going to take my round number 10 brush to mix these colours. Check it's clean. Looks like it's got something on it. I'm going to take a pea-sized blob and take it into the water. So what I'm looking for now is consistency. I want each of these colours to be consistent so they don't fight wet in wet. So this is my Gamboge Yellow. If you haven't got Gamboge Yellow, you could use cadmium yellow, you could use Indian yellow, you could use Quinacridone Gold, you could use lemon yellow. So there's lots of different options. Don't feel you've got to go out and buy paints. Use what you've got and get used to it. That's part of being a beginner. This one, pea-sized blob, Rose Madder. So Rose Madder tends to be a bit weaker, so you might need more for that to be consistent. Still need a little bit more. It's getting used to your pigments, you see. So I know Rose Madder is weaker, so I will put more in because I'm used to those pigments. Cobalt Blue, so student quality Cobalt Blue is very, very strong in the Cotman range, so I tend to put less in so that I know that that is consistent. There we go. So I've got 3 consistent mixes. Got my wash brush. This is Saunders Waterford, a nice cotton paper. I've kept it nice and small so it's a manageable size for you learning wet in wet. And I'm wetting the whole thing. Get a nice even coat. You want a nice sheen, no puddles. If you're using a cellulose or wood-based paper, then you just less water. You've got to move quicker. Check your brush is clean. So I've gone back to my round number 10. I'm going to start with my lightest colour first, which is the Gamboge Yellow. I'm going to bring that through as if I'm stroking as if it was growing out from the ground. I'm not going too much into the actual flower. Rinse my brush off, dab it off because I don't want extra water going into these. Then I'm going to bring in some of the blue. So this is going to start to mix on the paper. It has a lovely vibrancy. and it will be making beautiful greens. So rinse my brush off, dabbed it off again. I'm coming into the rose madder. So I'm going to bring that in now. Doesn't matter if it goes further. In fact, I want it to go further. I'm going to spread it. I'm going to bring some of that within here as well. If I just dip into the neat rose madder, I'm going to start to just bring a little bit on, curving round, and I'm going to let that settle. Okay, so that's settled and dried beautifully. It's given us a lovely background, a lovely sense of movement and atmosphere. And now we're going to work into the flower. So we're going to build over a second layer. So with that gamboge yellow, I'm going to come straight on to dry and onto the stem first of all. This is with my round number 6. And then I'm coming into the cobalt blue. So I need to choose a direction of light. I've come in and there's a darker this side. So I'm probably best to put my direction of light, that I've got it lighter, on the right hand side. So drop that blue in, and then because it's wet, it moves around and it's giving a really nice cylindrical feel. So with very little effort, that's sorted that stem. Rinse my brush out. I'm going to leave a really fine gap. You can dry it off at every stage, but I'm leaving about 1 millimetre in between, and I'm just coming straight onto this next leaf with the gamboge yellow, so you'll be able to see that millimetre I've left in between there, just so that they don't blend together. A little bit of water, because the area is a little bit bigger, just gives you some more time. So I've popped that on. Then I'm going to go straight into the blue and pop that on. The consistency should mean that you'll get a mix into green, but you'll also, because you're dropping it in and not playing with it too much and not mixing up and down, get natural bits of difference which will really hold together as natural shadow. It's about learning to trust the watercolour paint to do its own thing. So a little bit of water again, still with my round number 6. And then I'm going to come on. I've left that 1 millimetre gap in between, but you can dry it if you want to. And then on with the blue. Keeping that, I'm going to keep that to the left hand side on this one, so they get a little bit of light on that right hand side. And you can see how, as this is settling, you can still see the stroke of the blue, but you can see the blend of the green. And it really is trusting the watercolour to do its thing. So I'll dry that off and then we'll come into the flower. Okay, so that's nicely dry now, and you can see how subtle and beautiful that is, and how effective it is just with these 3 colours. We're going to come on now, and I'm going to start by the side ones. So I'm just going to wet them one at a time. I'm doing this with my round number 10, but you could use your round number 6. And I can do 2, because I want this one to settle as the other one's happening. I'm actually trying to take a little bit of water off. You just want a sheen rather than too much water. I'm going to then swap to my round number 6 to pop the paint on. So this is the rose madder coming on. We haven't wet that centre petal, so you're going to get a nice bit of definition here. I'm going to come in this side as well. And then what you're waiting for really is for this sheen to go off a little bit. If you go in too soon with the blue, then it will shoot all the way across. What we need to do is to pop a little bit of shadow in. So I'm coming into that same mix of blue. Just going to dab it off a little bit on the kitchen towel. This is because I know that mine's a little bit wet still. Just helps you to control it. There's less on the brush, there's less to flow out. I'm going to dip into a neat little bit of blue. Just bring that down. So I've got that gentle line, and then I've got a sharper line that should blend really nicely together. So I'm just dabbing my brush off to make sure I've got no additional water in here. I'm going to do the same down here. It's very subtle. Dab my brush off, come into some of the neat blue. Just bring that along the edge. No additional water on the brush means that you really are in control. And if you can wait for that sheen to be just slightly glistening, you're even more in control. So you can see that sense of shadow there. I'll dry that one off. Okay, so that's nicely dry. So we're going to come on to the centre petal. So because I want this to be just a tad darker, I'm not going to wet it. I'm going to come straight on with the paint. So I'm coming on to dry. So I just need to make sure my brush is fairly loaded, and I need to move fairly quickly. This is going to make this a bit stronger than the other two. Now, because watercolour is transparent, those layers that we did underneath will still shine through. They'll just be giving additional atmosphere to the picture. I'm going to dip into some neat rose madder now. So I've coated that fully with the rose madder. And I'm now dipping into some neat rose madder. So I'm going to bring some darker down that side, and then a little bit of a line just there in the centre. Rinse my brush off, dab that off. I'm going to come into the neat cobalt blue. So I've only got a little bit on the tip. I'll take a little bit off. I can just bring that on this edge to a nice blend. Then bring that in, do a few lines. You get those creases within the petals, and that works really nicely to give a sense of shadow. If you want an additional bit of light, then you rinse your brush off, you dry it off on the kitchen towel, and what we're going to do is lift out a little bit of light. So you can see, if you try and do it with a bit of kitchen towel, you end up with a really sharp mark. But if you do it with a damp brush, you get a really nice soft effect. So we can just lift out a couple of little bits of light. And so I've dried it off and removed the tape, so we can see there that it's a simple, effective tulip. It's given you a good base as a beginner on how to do some of these techniques. There's no mud involved. There's lots of freshness because we've used transparent colours. There's lots of atmosphere because we've let the paint do its own thing as well. And we've only used 3 colours to create this tulip. So it's a real good learning exercise for you. Please do like, subscribe and share. I shall continue with the floral playlist, and I shall see you next time.